Hello and welcome to the Austin Jazz Society Conversations with the Hall of Fame. My name is Christian Wiggs. I have served as the producer on this series, and as a part of its mission, the Austin Jazz Society recognizes and honors the legacy of those local individuals who have made a positive contribution to the jazz art form. Each year, the Society nominates and selects candidates to be recognized and inducted into the Austin Jazz Society Hall of Fame. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the Society arranged for individual conversations with those living Hall of Famers as a way of capturing their thoughts and influences affecting their love of jazz. We are very thankful to have Rabbi Neil Blumofe, recognized jazz aficionado and historian, conduct these interviews. We hope these interviews will give a sense of commitment, history, contributions, and personal love for America's own art form, jazz.
Well, Ms. Hart, it is an honor to be with you this day, and trust and please God that all is blessing and goodness for you and your family.
Thank you.
It is an honor to chat with you a little bit. I know that you were born in Los Angeles and you went to UCLA, which is awesome, and you came here in the early '80s. So what brought you to Austin?
Well, you know how little girls do. I followed a man here, a grown man though. My first husband was an engineer and he worked at TRW, and he was transferred out here. And so when the night of my last final, I packed up in my little Toyota and we drove out here.
Wow.
Oh, yes.
What did you know about Austin before you came?
I didn't even know Austin existed before I moved here. I just blindly came to start a life because I didn't have an adult life in Los Angeles. I was 22 at the time. And so right into university after high school. And so I really didn't have much of an adult life there. So I didn't know any better. I didn't know I was supposed to stay there and be an artist.
Well, you found yourself pretty quickly involved in some of the music scene. And certainly I know you did a lot of research with albums and listening to vocalists. And how did you find your way? How did you find, no pun intended, how did you find your voice in Austin?
Well, when I decided that I wanted to sing, I asked whom should I talk to validate my voice and start my career. And so people pointed me to Beulah Agnes Curry Jones, Dr. Beulah Agnes Curry Jones over at Houston Tillotson. And I went to talk to her and she had me sing for her. And she was so very sweet. And she said, well, there's really nothing more I can do for you with your voice, but get yourself a repertoire and learn 10 to 15 songs really good and learn how to perform those, and that'll get you started. And that's all she said. And then, so that's when I started. I noticed the library had albums, and so that's when I started going to research albums. I knew a lot of songs already because my mother played them around the house. What drove me to the library was my curiosity of who Billie Holiday was, because I only knew Diana Ross in Lady Sings the Blues. And so I said, well, let's see who this Billie Holiday is. And it was so different, but I loved it instantly. And then I started looking up Ella Fitzgerald, because Ella Fitzgerald is sort of the standard that you use to learn songs, because she sings them, at least the first time through, she's going to sing them straight. And then she's going to go off. But so you can learn, the melodies. And, I learned so much. I was listening to so many. And so I learned how to sing. Basically, my maturity came from singing along with those records of improvisation with Ella and just singing pretty. and then bending the notes with Billie Holiday and Sarah Vaughan and singing across the melody, all those things you don't really have terms for. They're just stuff you've learned through experimenting with your voice. And so I learned all those textures from them. And then, after a while, you kind of start going off on your own and trying to develop your own style, consciously or unconsciously.
Well, for sure. And so before we get away from the early Pamela Hart, so I admire you so much. You studied economics. So if your heart was in music so much, what was that?
Well, that was just crowd education. You know how you tell your kids who you hang out with matters. So I hung out with a really diverse group of people. In high school, I was infatuated with Africans for some reason, and then that continued in college. But in high school, I was bused to the San Fernando Valley, and so it was a really good school too. So I hung out with kids who had an automatic, you're getting an education, you're going to university, you're going to be a successful person. And so even just following the crowd and they led me to what I needed to do. And so we were all going to UC Cal colleges, either Berkeley or Riverside or whatever. But I wanted to go to UCLA because my bus, to avoid traffic, it would go through campus, all the time. So even when I was in junior high school, I decided I'm going to school at UCLA. And then I was also in an enrichment class where they would take, even in elementary school, I was in an enrichment class, which meant I studied, or I guess I did, because they, if you were doing well, then you got to go to UCLA and dance. We took these dance classes I will never forget with this guy named Kwasi Badu from Ghana. And so UCLA, I decided way back then, this is where I'm going to school. I didn't apply anywhere else. Thank goodness I had the grades to go. So, and they only had, I wanted to study business because everybody was like, you should do business. And as much as my attention was on art and singing and dancing, I was in dance, singing, musical production in high school and everything. But the smart thing to do was get a business degree. And the only business major UCLA had was economics. So,
wow.
And I barely made it through my freshman years because it's a hard major. But once I got to secondary, I started making good grades.
Well, that's an amazing story, and I'm sure your family was very proud of you.
The last of 6 kids, so I really didn't think they were paying attention because I was the first one to go to college. So I really didn't think they were paying, and I'm the youngest of 6, so everybody's gone out of the house. And so it's just me and my single mom. She had remarried by then, and so I didn't even go to graduation. I just didn't think anybody was interested. And one day my sister was visiting, and she said, did you ever finish college? And I went and got her my degree. I said, yeah, I did. I didn't know any better. I didn't know it meant anything to them to watch me walk across the stage. It wasn't selfish. It was just naive. Yeah.
And when you got to Austin in the early 80s, well, how did you find the city? What did you think? What was, I know you said you didn't really think about it before. What was it like for an amazing UCLA economics graduate to walk into Austin?
Well, I loved the atmosphere. It wasn't crowded. Kids were leaving their bikes out in the yard. The nurseries had all of their supplies out overnight. Back then, the houses were like $30,000 and $40,000. And the air was clean and they had all this beautiful water and the people were nice. So I really I really liked Austin. And 3 years after I moved here, I had an opportunity to move back to Los Angeles, and I went to visit. I was just too far gone. I wasn't a city girl anymore, and I just couldn't take the hustle and bustle. And Austin also um, nurtured me. I had some very nurturing friends. I told you how I met Beulah Agnes, and everybody was just very giving in their information and supported me and everything I did, everything. So I decided to stay because I liked it, and I still love it. Love Austin.
How did you meet Dr. Polk?
I met him, I'm sure, at the Elephant Room. And actually, I met him in Los Angeles. When I met him again, I was like, I know you. But I met him at the Elephant Room. I went to jam sessions, and I met him there. And I told him I wanted to work with him. And he said that I needed to go and invest in a PA. So he's the one who told me that I needed to have my own professional equipment and my own mic and PA. And that was probably about 86 or something, 86, 87. I met him. And so the rest is, I don't know when that was, but early. It's like when the Elephant Room first opened, they were there. And I met him. And so I was always looking for validation from him, but he would never give it. He wanted you to believe in yourself. So I would say, well, should I do this a certain way? He said, well, however you think you should do it, that's how you should do it. So he also taught me that in music, there are standards, but there are not too many rules. Don't get rules. Don't be locked in by rules, because just do your thing, and that's the rule.
Well, I know that you've done amazing work in education and really setting standards in Austin. There's a phrase that's used in your biography that's called the artistry of vocal jazz.
Uh-huh.
Could you define that, please?
Oh, sure. Well, musicians, have their way of learning things, and it's what's taught in school, and well, vocalists do too, but the artistry of singing jazz is not only a technique, but it's a feeling, and it's something that you can only do if you're sincere. So it's authentic, it's sincere, it comes from the heart. And when you're singing from that place, it leads you to other places, organically. And it's what makes your style yours, and your just and so the artistry is developed not so much from outside influences, but just what you have to give. So
How does it feel for you when you're up on stage singing a song, whether it's yours or a standard, or making the standard yours? How do you describe that feeling?
oh, I love it. And it comes, it's something that you don't do alone. It's is given to you by what you have to work with, all the resources you have to work with, what you see in the room, what you hear from the musicians sets the mode. And it depending on how you woke up that day and how you feeling sets your tone. And then if the music is just right and you can lay back in it and just let things just happen, then that's the best. Otherwise, I'm thinking about it and deciding, what to do, and it might be something I've done before. But when I really get into expressing myself, I do it best when the chemistry is there in the whole room, and my being has merged with the sound of the room and the air on my face and the expressions on people's faces. And that's when I can really be myself, when I'm in a happy place. And that happens a lot with Austin audiences because they're so warm, you know. When I do the jazz at the Austin Jazz Society, especially at Chez Z, that's like the warmest audience ever. And so you can just be yourself, your total self in that room. And so you can go to new places, with your voice. And that has to do with, everything. You're feeding off them, they're feeding off you, and so you're feeding off them again. So it's a give and take. So it has to do with, what mood you're in, where you are, who's projecting energy on you, whether the band members are in it, so it's all of that. So I can work with great musicians, but I'd rather work with musicians that are not just playing at it, but they're in it, they're in the music.
That's very well said. I really appreciate your description of that.
Yeah.
It's obviously something you've thought about for a long time.
Yeah. And I just did a project, a CD project, and I picked musicians based on their energies and how they work as a team. And so I have John Firmigan on bass, who's not only phenomenal, but he's one of those great leaders who leads when he thinks he's best at it, and then he backs off to give somebody else, their time to lead. And then I had Brandon Temple on drums, who's great. I had Ryan Howard Ryan D. Howard on piano, and Ryan D. Howard is my James Polk replacement. And James Polk asked me, a few years ago, he said, I'm getting too old for this. You need to find somebody else to do this. So I found Ryan, and he's kind of the opposite of James because he's young. So he's carefree, and I have to worry about him. But he has raw talent, just raw talent. So I love him and work with him as much as I can. And then I had some sweetening with Althea Renee playing the flute and Andre Hayward playing the trombone, and then Mike Malone playing the saxophone. And he has the most presence. And Tommy Howard is playing guitar on all the songs. So and I had Larry Sire as my engineer, and it is wonderful. But it's all covers though, because during all of 2020, and I got really busy. Making jam and candy and doing my Sunday house concerts. But my creativity was like vanished because my head was like in a fog. So I was like, I'm gonna stay busy, but I'll start trying to write something and then abandon it. So, but what I did want to feel was the comfort. My mind went back to my childhood in the kitchen with my mother singing while she was cooking or whatever. And all of those songs, those comfort songs came back to me. And this album is a compilation of all of those. So it's like, I want my mama. I don't know what to do. So that's what this CD represents. And I just love it. And it's a comfort for me and all my brothers and sisters, like, all those songs you remember when mama did this and that. So yeah, that's what it is. And the title is Happy Talk, because that's one of the tunes. Mm-hmm.
Sort of a lullaby for your soul, it sounds like.
Exactly. That's a good way to put it.
Are any of your other siblings musicians or artists?
No, my brother Jeffrey loves to sing. I'm sure if they put their mind to it, a couple of them could be singers, but they just didn't take that road to, train their voices and things like that. But they love to sing. Even the bad singing ones love to sing. And it sounds great to me because it's a joyful noise.
I understand that. Now, speaking of your family, you have some pictures just behind you. Who's in those pictures?
Yeah, that is actually Kevin's mom and dad. Don't they look great? They're
Yes,
the
they do.
old style pictures. Look at that.
Wow.
With his
Beautiful.
mom. And then
Wow.
his dad called himself Black Clark Gable. He thought he was
Oh my
Look at
goodness.
that.
That's amazing.
And then I'll show you this last one. Because this is Kevin as a Marine.
Oh my goodness.
All right.
Wow.
And this is
Well,
a
I'll tell you
dad.
what, you married some very good genes.
Yeah, I have a beautiful daughter. So, yes, I do.
Is your daughter here in Austin?
She's here now because she's picking up her granddog. So they came yesterday, and she lives in Houston, so they'll be headed back so they can go to work.
And you were going to show some other pictures too? I mean, those are really beautiful.
No, I think that's enough.
All right. So you have such a connection to students, and you've really dedicated a lot of your work to really model how to sing and even the business of the music industry and impressing that
Yeah,
upon younger people.
I
Where'd
miss
that
them.
come from? What's that?
I really miss them. I haven't, this year, I've only worked with one student, but what I'm most proud of is there's like, how there's just a few who really take it and run with it. So there's a couple who've done that. One is a young lady named Kylie Phillips, and Kylie's gigging already at 16. You could see her in restaurants, or at least she was. And she really she latched on to the performance aspect. So she can really work a room, but she has a beautiful voice. And then I have um, a lady who just finished trying out for American Idol, and she got to like the third round. And she came over, and Ryan and I worked with her to prepare her to go to Hollywood, and created her 30-second snippets. You have to take a song and make it a new whole song that's only 30 seconds. So we and she did really good. That's item of the day. And so yeah, so I really, really love working with kids. I used to direct the choir, the kids choir at when I went to Imani Church. And so the kids, for some reason, they listen. And so that's always inspiring to keep working with them when they listen. But that's what these young kids do. And we're having a millennial now. We're trying to have some continuity with the kids we've been working with, and they're growing up. So now we used to have the youth concert, and now last year was going to be our first millennial. And you saw we were working with Sarah Milligan and her band. And they made it last year, or year before. And so the millennials are going to be on again for this year at Shay Z when we can get back to them. If not, then we'll have them do a virtual show.
That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you miss gigging and singing and performing as well.
I do, but I starting on March 26th, I was doing every Sunday, like a 30-minute show every Sunday at 5 o'clock. and I did it up until Christmas time.
Mhm.
And now it's, every now and then. In fact, today I was going to have a show, but Ryan was having issues with his pipes. So, well, we'll do it next week. So I hadn't posted it anyway. So then when I had this, I was like, great, I don't have to rush and do two things. But yeah, and let's see, I was fortunate enough to have my first live performance in February. And it was at the University of Houston Clear Lake. Audience, auditorium, everything.
Wow.
They had social distancing, and it was wonderful. I hired a band in the Houston area. I knew a guy named Daryl Levine, and he got some other cats together. And we got there early that day, rehearsed, and it was really, really nice. It felt good.
Did you perform from your CD, or did you perform other songs?
Yeah, I performed other songs because it was like an hour, and I did about an hour and a half. I think I did like 15 songs.
Wow.
And I did all the CD songs. There are 9 of those. And then we did some others like Don't Mean a Thing and Dearly Beloved that I like. And my last song was, I got an encore. So I came back and did My Shining Hour. So it was nice. I did my anthem song, which is also on the album, is We'll Be Together Again. But I had told the band, I said, okay, I want to record We'll Be Together Again, but I don't want it to be the sad and melancholy We'll Be Together Again. I want it to be optimistic. So keep it upbeat. It's like, don't worry, we'll be together again. So that's on there too.
That's lovely. So was the concert recorded?
Yes, yes. I haven't seen it yet, but before we left, they gave Kevin a disc of the concert. So I don't know if it's on their Facebook page or not. I'll have to look and see.
Well, very
University of
cool.
Clear Lake. Mhm.
Great. Well, speaking of Kevin, tell me a little bit about Heartbeat Productions.
Okay, well, we started Heartbeat Productions in 1993 in response to Pam becoming a professional singer, and making a business of it. So we registered it, and it's been around for that long. As a matter of fact, we had to come to an agreement with Kevin Hart, comedian, because his company is called Heartbeat Productions. And so our agreement was you stay in your lane and we'll stay in our lane. We can both keep our names. But yeah, we just made up that name because of Kevin's last name, Heartbeat, our last name. So it was just catchy, and we've just stuck with it. So that's what
Well,
it is.
it's certainly memorable.
Production is the profit organization, and then Women in Jazz is the nonprofit.
Excellent. So I know you've done Women in Jazz, you've done other platforms where people can learn and explore about jazz and hear new voices as well. Tell us a little bit about some of those other those other performances of Women in Jazz and other things as well.
Well, we've had some workshops for singers. We've had quite a few of those. That used to be on our annual project list, and will be soon again. But and it's wonderful because learning how to lead a band, which is what you have to do, as a singer, because bands won't respect you if they have to carry you. And so the first thing on the agenda is, of course, we do rhythm and melody and what makes a song, parts of a song, the AABA, and teaching what a bridge is and how to signal the different parts of the song, go through the introduction, the outro. But we teach them how to communicate nonverbally with musicians, and talk them through what you want. You don't have to necessarily know, I want to start with a 3-6-2-5 intro, but you could say, I want four bars up front, and then I'll come in and and then you have to know also the hard thing that singers learn the hard way is, giving the solo and then coming back in after the solo. And then endings, we spend a lot of time on how to end songs. And then, of course, the rules get broken on ending songs. I remember when I used to try to end the song, this is how you end the song. And I was working with Dr. Polk at the Paramount doing a major concert called the Great American Songbook. And we were swinging some song, All of Me or something. And I was getting ready to end. He did a turnaround and held up his finger like, one more time, one more again. And so I had to, and it's from him that I learned it, extended endings. So now I do it all the time. They have to watch me to see how long is this going to go on before she goes out. And it's fun.
I'm sure. And Black women in jazz.
Uh-huh.
What was your motivation, inspiration to start that?
Well, that was actually the first. I was on the board of the Black Arts Alliance in '82. Yeah, 82. 82 is when I left. No, 85. Yeah, I came to Austin 82. I left that man in 85, and I got on the board of Black Arts Alliance probably like 80, 87, 88. And I loved it because it was all about, producing art in Austin, but they didn't have anything for singers. And so I advocated for that. And I said, well, let's, at programming meeting, it was just one of the ideas, I presented, and I said I would do the planning and the production for it and everything. And so that was really my first project. And we did it at Symphony Square, which was a beautiful little, theater. It was pre-Breckenridge, pre-helicopters at Breckenridge. And so, it had the Serrano's restaurant right there. And then, so it was beautiful. And so we did that a couple of years there. And then the organization I quit the organization, and they had a new director and a new board. And Harold McMillan called me one day and he said, the Black Arts Alliance is no longer going to do Black women in jazz. And I said, oh, really? And I said, well, I'll continue to do it. But outside of the organization, I'll just call it Women in Jazz because, more is more. So there's always advantages of being diverse and inclusive. So now I didn't want to have to, all of my singing friends, most of them were not Black. And so I said, well, I want to be able to include them in the shows, the Donna Mithals, Beth Ullman, and they were my friends. And so that's how we started that in '94. And we used to work under the Center for Women in Their Work was the organization where they were our sponsoring organization. And then in 2006, we got our own nonprofit 501c3. So we've been going ever since. And it's one of those things that are like anything else you do, it has a long runway. And it took a while to become profitable, but it was something that Kevin and I have been doing together. And while we had our times where we weren't, making much money, we were doing all this work and weren't able to pay ourselves, but it was fulfilling. And our friends were telling us, if you're not making any money, you should get out of that, stop doing it. And I thought it was rather short-sighted. We had a passion about it. Kevin started doing sound engineering as a result. We both became project managers. So it became easier for us to do because we had repeatable processes and easily handed over to different people to help out. And you can relate to this, Rabbi. Sometimes when you're doing things together, that's the glue that keeps your relationship, you know. And so I said, well, don't, because one of his best friends was the ones, you know, kind of a well-to-do guy saying, well, if you're not making any money, you shouldn't even do it. And he was unhappy because he couldn't stay married. So I was like, maybe this is the glue that keeps us together. Don't listen to that guy. So we're doing fine now. I mean, we've learned, and we've started, you know, doing like Austin Jazz Society, and we get funding from different sources. And so we're fine, and we're fine.
Right. Now you do so much, and I just appreciate everything that you do and how you do it. What do you enjoy most? Like what gets you out of bed in the morning? What springs you out of bed?
Oh, actually getting to do my own thing. Like I have a day job, and it's just for that. It's just for the comfort of getting old. I mean, I enjoy some of the work, but that's why I do it. But I really enjoyed, you know, I was off of a day job for about 3 months, and I enjoyed getting up and doing something that only I enjoyed, like making jam that day. I said, I'm gonna be productive. I'm gonna start and finish something today. So I can make jam, I can make candy, I can learn, you know, a lot about this cybersecurity and this live streaming. You know, so I like to learn stuff. I'm the kind of person who can watch a movie and then go get my laptop because I want to know more about what they just said. I mean, not all the time, but so just I really got into doing my own thing, and you know, try to get into a position where I can do that all the time. So during that time, I also finished my MBE WBE certification with the city of Austin, so that if a contract came up that I can do, like I do project management, I do training, consulting, and so um, those are, so I'll finish something like that, but I'm not necessarily moved to do the next thing, you know, because it's a rut again, and I'm at the age where I just want to do me, you know, but I do want to make a difference and do something that you know, makes a better Austin or whatever. But what gets me up, what motivates me is this things I can enjoy. And my attention span is not that long, so it could be one thing one day, another thing the next day.
That makes sense.
So you never know.
No, so I have this image of you, Miss Hart, that you
Mhm.
when you were a young girl in LA, you're listening to DJ Brad Pride. When you come to
Bad Pride Junior.
when you came to Austin, you're sitting in the library listening to the albums. And
Mhm.
here we are now. What are you listening to now?
Well, right now I'm listening over and over again to my own recordings, and I also I haven't been listening much, but I listen a lot to YouTube. Like I'll go to YouTube, and then I'll get down a rabbit hole listening to people like I can't remember the name of this young lady, but she sang the music to Harriet.
Hmm.
I used to know her name, but she's a beautiful singer. And I was like, well, who is this girl? So I listened to her song Stand Up. And then, of course, it showed some more. And I saw she was a classically trained. She did The Color Purple, Broadway, and just a beautiful singer. And I can't remember her name. But I also still listen to the classics. I like to watch old videos of Nancy Wilson, and then it'll show me Sarah Vaughan, and then it might show me Peggy Lee, and I'll get down another rabbit hole. I was into Carole King Friday because something came up about Carole King reminding everybody to re-up their Democratic Party membership. And I was like, Carole King is still around. Carole King wrote Go Away Little Boy, which I sang on she wrote Go Away Little Girl, which I sang on the CD. And then I was like, I wonder if Carole King will listen and do a review. And then I started listening to Tapestry album. So it's just whatever. I'm just all over the place, really.
Well, I think that's one of the that's an endearing quality of who you are. I think that's what makes you live and unexpected and vital.
Yeah.
So if I'm a young singer, if I'm a singer, it's inevitable that I'm going to make a mistake.
Mhm.
What do you tell your singers when they're in the middle of a song and they sing the wrong note, or they're in a place where they're, oof, well, how did I get here? How do they get out of that? What do you do? What do you do with your mistakes?
Well, first I tell them to think ahead and be intentional on whatever they do. Because when you start out, I say everything you do should be deliberate, So just like when you read, you're looking ahead a little bit. I said you have to think a little bit ahead of your lyric and what you decide to do with them, because you just have a millisecond, to make a choice. And if they don't make a note, if it's a high note and they don't reach the note, I say the only reason you didn't reach that note is because you thought you couldn't reach that note. So don't psych yourself out. Say, I got it. And then, you'll get it. And then I'll say, well, it's all right to go off the melody if you deliberately go off and go to places that make sense. So I don't give any hard, fast rules except for do it on purpose. Don't accidentally go to different places. That'll come later when you have muscle memory in your voice, and you'll accidentally go places, but they'll still be familiar places. Won't be in the wilderness. So that's what I do, is tell them how to. I intellectualize it at first until it becomes natural. So deliberately. And if you do, kids now like to do all these runs, runs, and they think that since Mariah Carey did it, or Beyonce, that they think it's random. I said, there's nothing random about that run. It had a note every single way. I said, so sing it very slow, each note, until you get it, and go faster and faster until you get the run. I said, it's a mess if you don't hit the notes. So well, that's how we talk. And I talk very direct to them in their, in tones they understand, which is usually a mama tone. What made you do that? But they love it. Miss Pam told me to do this, so I'm gonna do that. But anyway, so that's what it is. There are two messages. One is be deliberate, and the other one is to be sincere. And I had another guy. I don't know if you remember Gil Askey, the name Gil Askey. Gil Askey was a trumpeter and a composer and arranger, and he actually worked for Motown. He arranged a piece of the Action, Lady Sings the Blues. He did Mahogany. He was the producer for that. So great writer, and happened to fall into my presence through Lonnie Jackson, who's a friend of Lonnie Jackson. And I had him write a song. I asked him to write a song arrangement for me, and he did Say It Isn't So. And we were in the studio, and I sang, and he gave me the what for. He taught me that, it's not enough to have a pretty voice, and a good singer is somebody who's saying something. So he said, what are you saying? Which meant it has to come from here and be sincere, and people have to believe you about what you're singing. So that was a good lesson. And so I teach them that lesson too, especially in a song. I teach them that a song has a life. You know, it has a beginning, a middle, and an end, just like a good story. And when you're telling a good story, you tell, you know, you lay the foundation of the setting, and then you tell the story, and then you give more details. And when you're giving more details, you don't give it the same way that you told it in the introduction. So don't sing it the same way the second time that you sang it the first time. So because now you're saying, I don't think you heard me. I said, da 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 da, you know. So, and that's the way, and they get that. I said, because when you're talking to somebody and you told somebody something, and when you repeat yourself, you say, didn't I say blah, blah, blah? You know, a mother don't use the same tone the second time when she has to tell you again. So it's like that. You know, the storyline of the song, or the phase of the song.
No, I appreciate you saying that. So let me get your take, Ms. Hart. One of the most important recordings for me of all time is Ella Fitzgerald live in Berlin, 1965, when she's singing How High the Moon.
Ah, she does somebody else's solo in that scat.
Yeah, and I was thinking that maybe she kind of, I don't know if she forgot the words or misremembered or just was doing what she was doing, but
she goes, how high the moon, that's the name of the song. How high the moon, though the words may be wrong. She did. I love that. I love Ella Fitzgerald.
So that's made a profound impact on me and what I do. And I just love how you're grounding people and telling a story and saying it differently. And then, you know, if it happens that you got to figure it out when you're in the middle of it, then you just do, you know?
Just sing through it, right? Yeah, sing through it. And I've forgotten stuff. And even at this concert at the University of Houston Clear Lake, I asked him, you know, we didn't have much time to rehearse. So he started Summertime. And I was listening, and I was saying to myself, I have no idea what key this is. I said, I don't have perfect pitch, but I know it's not my key. And so I just sang, this doesn't sound like C minor. And then all of a sudden I heard a change of key. And then I started the song. But the audience laughed. They were like, okay. So I got that from Ella too. Sing through your mistake. Keep it moving.
For sure. No, I love that so much. You've been in Austin now a while. What hopes do you have for this city?
Well, I'm hopeful that the city continues. It looks like they're really striving to support the music and venue community. So go all in on giving some financial support to the venues and the musicians so that, you know, when we're back, we can go back full-fledged and not suffer coming back. But and I hope they use the music industry as a leader in bringing the vitality back to the city, because that's an easy one. Music is the opiate of the people, right?
Nice, or something like that.
Something like that, what Karl Marx said. So we need that. We need the piper to get everybody, at least, you know, when you get uplifted, you're encouraged to do more. You know, you're encouraged to go back and find that job, and you're encouraged to go back, okay, if things are getting back to normal, it's time for me to get off my butt and do such and such, you know. So yeah, so I think that's what I'm hoping for, is that they let the music and the artists lead back to getting the culture spinning again in town.
Now, I appreciate that you've made an album of songs that you sang with your mother in your kitchen long ago. And that's beautiful and grounding and very important. You've recently, you know, I know we can argue semantics about new decade, but you're kind of in a new decade a little bit for yourself. What goals do you have for yourself in this time? Not just COVID time, but you know, what's next in
Yeah.
the decade?
Well, I hope that this album is a springboard for me to write more and get into music more. I've been learning piano forever, and I haven't been getting very far because of my attention span. So I'm hoping I'm hoping now that I've written this, I feel like now I want to do that. I have guitars and I have all kind of instruments around here that I can play. And my goal has always been, you know, I've always said my old lady thing is going to be a lounge singer playing piano myself. So I just have a few songs now, but so I have to get back on that. So that's my desires to get, I get distracted by a lot of other different things besides honing in on my musicianship. And I'd like to spend more time with that. Then I'd like to get back to where I can work with the kids again, and because I just don't like the way where the music that they're doing is headed. I just don't like it. It's just like it's not much singing. It's a bunch of 16th notes, and so I'd like to get back to encouraging. You know, I have my nerve thinking that that old way is a better way because that's what I'm sure they used to say about us. But it has lost some craft that I think should be put back in, and they can incorporate that, you know, with those new styles. But it's missing that musicianship that it should have. Picking up instruments and talking through songs and knowing what you're doing things, you know, intentionally, as I said, and being able to articulate what you're doing with other people, discussing the music and all of that. I don't see a lot of that going on.
Do you have your students, do you have them listen to particular artists?
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
okay.
I play samples when I'm talking about different things. Like when I talked about crossing the measure when you're singing, um, I talk about trains. Like the music is like a train, and the different cars represent measures, and the whole song is on a track going to the same place. And as long as you're on the train, you can cross cars. When they get it across a point, you have to be finished. Can't be in between cars. So that's how I explain crossing the measure. And I always play Sarah Vaughan singing polka dots and moonbeams to demonstrate that, because let's see the part of the song on the second verse. Suddenly I saw polka dots and moonbeams all along a Pugno stream. The music started, and was I the? She's in the second verse, but she sang across, you know, across the measure without stopping at the end and taking a breath and going on. So I demonstrate when I don't do a good job of explaining. I say, this is what I mean. And I'll put on different singers. Staccato with Ella Fitzgerald, you know, sings. Or if I talk about sustaining the notes at the end of a phrase, you know, I'll play, you know, the classics, bending notes. I'll show how Billie Holiday bends her notes. Da-da, at the end of a phrase. And not only for technique, but demonstrating the different styles. I'll take the same song and say, see how this is how she sang it. It's the same song, but their song. That's how you make it your song. So what decisions are you gonna make at the beginning, in the middle, at the end? So those are the kind of.
Well, I love that. And I'm wondering what your thought it would be. Can a man sing Billie Holiday or Ella Fitzgerald?
Of course.
And can a woman sing, I don't know, Frank Sinatra, or everybody can sing?
We do all the time. Except we just change the name. We sing The Boy from Ipanema. But yeah, it doesn't matter because it's their point of view, so it's their song.
And I love Abby Lincoln, for example.
Uh-huh.
Or Nina Simone. Can I sing that, or can a
Anybody can sing anything.
Okay.
As long as it's them singing it, they will get away with it and be believable if it's them singing it and they're not just mimicking, but they put themselves in it and you can hear that, come across. Then nobody will have a problem with it. They won't say, look at him trying to sing Nina Simone. They'll say, check him out. He got that Nina Simone down pat, And it might not even sound like Nina Simone, but they can see it's coming from a soul,
Well, that's great to hear. It's really encouraging because, I think the stories of, I don't know, African-American experience in America, Jewish experience in America, for example, like Strange Fruit, like how can a guy sing that after Billie Holiday,
I don't think anybody can sing that after Billie Holiday. I mean, I've tried a few times by request and doing a tribute because you can't do one without it. But there's no way. I've never driven through the South and saw fruit hanging from trees like that. So I can estimate what that might feel like, but I have no idea, really. So.
But that doesn't, you don't get deterred though. I mean, you're going to do.
Oh, no. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go for what I think it feels like and looks like and smells like and therefore sounds like. Yeah.
Well, I want to hear more and more, Ms. Hart, some of your original compositions. I want that out in the world.
Thank you. I'm going to work on that. I am definitely going to work on that because I have a lot to say. The other thing is, some of the stuff I have to say, I don't know if I want to share. So I'm like, I can't write that. I have to come to that truce with myself on. It's okay. Just put it out there. It's stuff you will omit from your journal, because you don't want anybody to pick it up and read it.
So there's some.
Thank you, Rabbi. I am encouraged, and I am going to work on that.
For sure, there's some juicy fruit out there in Ms. Hart's what you got going on. Well, I want to hear it, and I loved speaking with you. And do you have any thoughts or questions or anything you want to share with me?
Well, how is it that you're, so involved in the music? What got you so involved in the music?
Oh my goodness. Well, I think it really is the stirrings of the soul, and it really does allow one to communicate in a way that words don't. And if you really want to get to where somebody really is, there's no substitute for it.
That's true. You're right about that. So, and you feel like you know a person, right?
That's absolutely true. I take my time and try to create a holy community in my congregation. But when you put an ensemble together, like the one you mentioned with Brandon and Mike and Tommy and Ryan, that's a congregation that's holy, and you can wholly be yourself in a place like that.
Right. That's true. That's true. Well, cool. I appreciate that you selected me today to interview, and you have a series of these, I imagine, huh?
Well, it's nice to honor you, and it's nice to honor those who've been inducted into the Hall of Fame for the Austin Jazz Society. So it's an elite group. So it's a really lovely service that I love.
Oh, I was like, I'm in the Hall of Famers. It's such an honor with all those people I admire and looked up to for so many years, in the same place.
Well, you've got a ways to go. That doesn't mean that it's.
At least I'm in the room.
For sure. And that doesn't mean that it's over. It means that we believe in you, and everybody believes in you and wants you to do good things.
So nice. I appreciate that.
Well, I hope you get to
Thank you for
enjoy.
sharing today. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I hope you get to enjoy your family and say goodbye to your grand dog and all of that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I will. Thank you.
It's my pleasure, Miss Hart. I wish you only blessings.
Okay. Thank you, Rabbi.